Hey friends, today we are going to be going over video one for chapter seven. Video one for chapter seven. Here is what we are doing for chapter seven. We are going to be working with the normal model and kind of extending our knowledge from chapter three. In 3.4, we were introduced to the empirical rule, mainly that if I am looking at this normal model, this nice symmetric normal model, we have about 68% of values are going to be within one standard deviation, 95% are going to be within two standard deviations, and then finally 99.7% are going to be within three standard deviations. So I'm going to go ahead and start you off with an intro problem that we already actually know how to solve. This will be kind of a good warm up to where we can double check to make sure we know what we are doing. So here we go. Let's say that we had a group of students take a typing test. Let's say they were taking a typing test. So with this sample of students, the mean was at 45 words per minute, and the standard deviation was at 12 words per minute. Now, assuming that this is a representative sample, that we didn't just pick the slowest typers or the fastest typers, let's say that this is a representative sample that is in a normal distribution. Here are the two questions that I would like to ask you guys to do. All right, first question. Using the empirical rule, what proportion, let's say these were high school students, what proportion of high school students would be expected to type faster than 57 words per minute? And then finally, the second question, what proportion of high school students would be expected to type between 21 and 33 words per minute? So I strongly, strongly encourage you guys to pause the video. Try this on a separate sheet of paper as you're taking notes through these videos. E-learning is not going to work unless you are actively doing these along with me. So go ahead. I have the percentages over here. I encourage you guys to pause this and try to do these for yourself. So go ahead and pause your video. All right, so let's go ahead and go over these two answers here. So to start this problem, I strongly recommend actually drawing out what this looks like. We have our mean that goes right in the center. That is what we are centered about. And then finally our standard deviation. If we are going in this direction, we are adding standard deviations. This way we are subtracting standard deviations. That will kind of figure out what we've got going on there. So let's go ahead and look. What proportion of high school students would be expected to be faster than 57 words per minute? Well, 57 words per minute is going to be one standard deviation above typical. So we're looking for all of this area in this direction, all of this area in this direction. Pretend that I am better at highlighting this in. All right, now a few different ways that you could do this. First off, we have an area that is 13.5. We have 2.35, and then finally, don't forget your little tail there. Beyond three standard deviations, you have 0.15%. So looking at your overall percentages, if you were to add those up together, 13.5, 2.35, and then finally 0.15, when you add all of those together, you end up with 16%. So your answer for your first one should have been 16%. And you can write that as a percentage, you can write it as a decimal. Make sure if you're working on MyMathLab, you pay attention to what they are asking for. Now, if you weren't in the adding mood, the other way that you could have done that was, hey, this whole thing is 100%, 100 minus 50 is 50%, and then finally 50 minus my 34% is going to be 16%. So two ways to get the exact same answer. And then finally, question two, this one was kind of an easy one. What proportion of high school students would be expected to be between 21 and 33 words per minute? Well, between 21 and 33, that would just be my 13.5, so 13.5%. And if you wanted to write that as a decimal, 0.135. All right, so this is what we did in chapter 3. We're pretty good at these. We did a lot of problems with like animal life expectancies. But here is where we are going in this chapter. It was very, very easy for us to calculate this. What percentage of students are between 57 and up? What if I were to change this and I said, hey, what about 50? What if somebody can type 50 words per minute? How fast are they? How are they relative to their peers? Well, looking at this, if I were to highlight what I've got going on here, looking at 50%, this is kind of in between these two standard deviations, between my mean and one standard deviation. So our empirical rule isn't going to be super helpful. I mean, obviously it's going to be more than 16%. Here's 16%, here's in between, but it's not exactly half of 34. So that is where we are going in this chapter, is we're going to start to talk about, okay, well, what if it doesn't lie perfectly on a standard deviation? How can we figure out those percentiles? All right, so this is video one. Make sure you finish the exercise after video one. Have a great day.